So I want to introduce you to NLP in action. I'm here with Sarah. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
And Sarah has volunteered to help me demonstrate to you the power of NLP, because me going to the board and me demonstrating techniques, that's one thing. But when you actually see NLP in action, that's another thing. That's sort of like the story I told you about the general, and the general showing the store owner just what it's like to be near death. You really don't understand something completely until you experience it. So this is going to get you one step closer, but realize that even with this, I want you to take what you're seeing me do with Sarah and any other demonstrations I do in this program and go ahead and practice those techniques. I want you to make them yours, because until you experience it, you're not really going to fully understand it. Beyond that, I want you to notice the changes that take place in people. Now, most of these changes are going to happen over time, but some of them are going to be instant changes. So that is really going to hit it home for you. It's really going to show you that what you're doing is not just a series of techniques. It's not just you performing a series of motions that I've told you about. Instead, it's you making positive, permanent changes in people's lives. And what's really going to show you that is, of course, doing it properly, but getting out there and doing it. And now that brings up another point, because some people become a little concerned about doing things properly. They think that, well, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. Realize that practice makes perfect, and your perfect attempts at practice really help with that. But understand that when you have a perfect attempt at practice, it doesn't mean that everything goes perfectly well. It doesn't mean that every time you practice something, everything just falls into place and the universe lines up, because let's face it, there are going to be challenges that are going to be beyond your control. There are going to be times when actually clients don't change. There are going to be times when you perform a technique properly even, and it actually doesn't change the client, because NLP is not 100% effective. And if you're living under the illusion that it was, I'm sorry to bring that to your attention, but it's not 100% effective. In fact, I don't know of any healing modality that is, but it will work most of the time as long as you perform the techniques to the best of your ability. So in all this, what I'm saying is give yourself the liberty to practice the techniques, as I'm going to demonstrate today. Give yourself the liberty to make mistakes, and it's best to practice with friends first. Rather than taking what you learn and going into your clinical setting and practicing on a patient immediately, I suggest practicing with friends, honing your technique, and then taking it into the clinic. However, it's not necessary for you to practice for years and years. I want you to get into the game. I want you to have your practice, but I also want you to have game day as soon as possible. I want you to take what you learn and practice with friends, get it to the point where you feel comfortable enough to do it in a clinical setting in which you're actually charging someone for it, and make that happen as soon as possible, as soon as you feel comfortable with it. Now, if there's ever anything that you don't feel comfortable with, I don't want you to force yourself to use it with a client. I want you to send me a question or send someone else a question, some other trainer perhaps. I want you to seek help with that technique. If there's something that you don't fully understand, that you don't feel confident doing, that's a completely different story, and I want you to seek help for that to make sure that you're doing it the right way. Okay, having said that, let me give you an example of NLP in action. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with Sarah, and first we're going to have a dialogue. We're going to have a back and forth conversation. We're going to establish rapport. I'm going to establish rapport with Sarah.
I would like to stop drinking so many soft drinks.
Okay, and how many soft drinks would you say you drink per day?
Probably about 6.
6 per day, okay. And how has this habit that you have hindered your life?
Well, it can get a little expensive because I spend a lot of money on the drinks, and then you know, I just feel like it's not healthy, and you know, I have diabetes in my family, so I feel like I shouldn't be drinking so much sugar and things like that, and it's mostly a health concern, and it does get expensive.
Okay. And aside from those things you already mentioned, how will your life improve once you're done with this habit, once it's behind you?
I think I would feel better because I'd probably be healthier without all the sugar and just knowing that I don't have to worry about, disease as much would probably um, give me a little less stress and, I'd have a little extra money and I think I would just feel better about myself.
Okay, great. Wonderful. And are you interested in getting rid of this habit?
Yes.
For those reasons? Okay.
Yes.
Now, what you've probably noticed is that there are two parts of you. You're almost of two minds. And the one part, or mind, if you will, is saying, keep on drinking those soft drinks because, let's face it, you probably enjoy it. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. And the other part, or mind, is saying, within the same body, the other mind or part would be saying, stop that. It's potentially killing you. It's an awful habit, and you need to let go of it. And do you feel those two parts working within you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. That's what we're going to use in this demonstration. We're going to use the fact that there are those two parts. Realize that they really both have your best interest in mind. I mean, one just wants to keep you happy because you do currently enjoy soft drinks, and the other one wants you to be healthy because you realize, having read some scientific articles, I imagine, that soft drinks are not really food. You're still drinking soft drinks. Is that right? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is a technique that's going to free you from that. We're going to work on changing the programming in your mind because I like to look at people as running computer programs in their minds. That's not all people are. People are wonderful, dynamic, spiritual creatures, but one of the things we do is we run programs in our minds. And one of the things that neurolinguistic programming is great for is changing some of the associations in your mind so that you can run different programs, which are more powerful. So are you up for that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, great. So you close your eyes now. And just go ahead and relax. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. Open your mouth slightly and exhale slowly. Good. And then another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it. Open your mouth slightly and exhale slowly. And for the viewers, it's important for you to understand that Sarah is not going to be put into a hypnotic state. Hypnosis is not necessary in order for this technique to work. In fact, most of the procedures in NLP are non-hypnotic in nature. A hypnotic trance is not required. I'm simply having her relax. I'm not going to count her down into hypnosis. I'm not going to have her imagine herself on a beach. I'm just having her relax and unwind because people come into an office a little worked up sometimes. They come in a little stressed out. And after all, we just finished talking about some habit that she has that she thinks about negatively. So Sarah, as you can see, is relaxing. She's at ease, yet she is still fully conscious. So Sarah, I'd like you now to think about, as I touch your arm here, is it okay for me to touch your arm here and here? Okay. As I touch your arm here, I would like you to think about that part of you that wants to change. Can you imagine that part? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'd like you to give it a shape, a sound, a feeling, and a color. So make it very real. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good. And think about your conscious reasons for making this change. This change which will allow you to no longer drink soft drinks, which will allow you to steer away from them. I now move my touch here. Notice I was touching this area, now this area. It's not important that I'm using the forearm at all. What is important is that I'm using two distinct areas. So I'm now going to touch here, and I want you to think about what keeps you doing this behavior. Think about that part of yourself that keeps you doing this behavior of drinking soft drinks. And I want you to give it a color, a shape, a sound, and a feeling. This part of you that keeps you continuing to do this behavior. Can you do that? Can you imagine that? Okay, great. But I want you now to let these two parts negotiate with each other. And notice what I'm doing now. Notice as you're watching you work with Sarah, what I'm doing now, I'm touching these two parts. I'm alternating, touching these two parts as I'm talking about them. I'm talking about them negotiating. Okay? And I want you to allow these two parts to negotiate and to work out every conscious and subconscious detail and blend together. Let them blend together to form a new part. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at it in a new light, and you're looking at it as an old program. What I would like you to do is imagine a soft drink now in front of you. And if you had sort of a grid in front of you with, like a tic-tac-toe board with vertical and horizontal lines right in front of you, say 1 foot in front of you, where on that grid would you say that soft drinks would be? It can be anywhere.
In the middle.
In the middle. Okay, great. Okay. Now I'd like you to tell me a food that you don't like, a food that you despise, that you just won't eat.
Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts. Okay. I want you to imagine Brussels sprouts moving to the same part of the grid as soft drinks. And I want you to imagine that the Brussels sprouts have the same color, taste, sound, etc. as the soft drink. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. You've seen NLP in action, you've gotten a taste, and you've seen what it's like. So, established rapport, did a visual squash, and then we continued progressing and we did a submodalities transfer. So we're going to talk about all those concepts later on, but I wanted you to get a taste of that. Visual squash, submodalities transfer. We will talk in detail about this later, but essentially now you've been exposed to NLP in action, because I like to have my students jump in as soon as possible and see this stuff work, because board work's one thing, but board work can get a little boring if that's all you're doing, if you're just watching me on the board. So I want you to realize that this stuff is real. NLP is something that happens. NLP is something that you do rather than just watch. So beyond being academic, it's something you actually perform. Look at a sensory acuity exercise. This is going to help you open up yourself, because we experience the world through our different senses: kinesthetic sense, visual sense, auditory sense. We have different senses through which we experience the universe around us. First of all, I want to introduce you to a kinesthetic sensory acuity exercise. This is going to help you heighten your awareness of touch, really tune you into your body. Okay, so with the help of Sarah, we're going to look at the first of the 5 senses. We're going to look at the kinesthetic sense, and we're going to sharpen that sense. So Sarah, I'd like you to close your eyes now, and I'd like you to think of a time, focus on a time when you were very in touch with your physical body. Now, with the help of Bill, the cameraman, Bill and I are going to alternate touching Sarah right here. So this is my hand, and there's Bill's hand, and what we're going to do in just a moment is we're going to touch her and we're going to say our names. So it's going to go like this: Steve,
Bill,
Steve,
Bill.
Okay, so Sarah, what you're doing during this time is you're calibrating to our touch. You're using this opportunity to tune in to your sense of touch, okay? So I want us now to go back and forth. Bill, we're going to take turns. Steve.
Bill.
Steve.
Bill.
Steve.
Bill.
Okay, now Sarah, what's going to happen is that one of us is going to touch you, and I want you to, out loud, say who that is.
Steve. Bill. Steve. Bill.
Okay, very good. And you were correct every time. What I'd like to show you next is an auditory acuity exercise designed to tune in your hearing and get you in touch with it a little more clearly. So, Sarah, what I'd like you to do is close your eyes, and I'd like you to think of a time in your life when you were very in tune with your hearing. Maybe you were listening to something and you were just, for whatever reason, very tuned in to your hearing. Okay. Now, Bill and I are going to snap our fingers. We're going to take turns snapping our fingers. And when we do, we're going to say our names. That's how we're going to start this out, just so you can calibrate to our snaps. So calibrate to, or pay attention to, the sound of our snaps. What does Steve's snap sound like versus what does Bill's snap sound like? So here we go. Steve.
Bill.
Steve.
Bill.
Steve.
Bill.
Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to snap. One of us is going to snap and you tell us who it is. Okay? Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Steve.
Good.
Bill.
Very good. Notice I'm giving her feedback as we do this. So if you work with a partner at home, I want you to give feedback as you go through this exercise. Carrying on now.
Steve.
Yes.
Bill.
Okay, great. Now we're going to make it a little more challenging. We may break up the pattern. We may go out of order. We also may move in space because your brain is very good at tracking where things are in a three-dimensional world. And if Steve is in a certain location on the grid and Bill is in a certain location on the grid, it's very easy to track. So we're going to mix that up a little bit. Now we're going to really have you tune into your ability to discern the actual sound.
Bill.
Very good.
Bill.
Very good.
Steve.
Very good. 100% success. Okay, so now you understand how to do the auditory acuity exercise designed to tune you in to your auditory world, because sometimes we take for granted the concept of hearing. We just think, well, we hear things from time to time, and this allows us to really hone that skill. So if you're getting feedback while you're doing this and you're finding out that you're a little bit off, that you weren't quite calibrated as well as you thought you were, then I want you to realize that you're only human. It's okay. Sarah did outstandingly well, but not everyone does that well, and that's okay. So realize if there's room for progress, that's fine. At least you find out where you are, and then you can gradually work on this. So hopefully you have a partner, a person you can work with, and you can work on this skill. Moving on now, I want to talk about a visual acuity skill designed to enhance how tuned in you are to your visual sense. So I want to tell you now about a visual acuity exercise, something that's going to help you tune into your sense of sight. So Sarah, what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and think of a time in your life when you were very tuned in to your vision. It can be a time when you were maybe watching a movie or looking at nature, but a time when you were very tuned into your vision. I want you to really tune into that now. Are you tuned in to that? Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I want you to open your eyes, and I want you to look at me, and I want you to take a picture of me. Just look at me, all of me, and take a picture of me, just a visual mental picture of me, of what I look like right now. Okay?
Okay.
I want you to close your eyes. Okay. Now I'm going to change something about my physical appearance. I'm going to make one change, and I want you, when you open your eyes, to tell me what that change is. Okay, so open your eyes now and tell me what the change is.
Your legs are crossed.
Right, very good. I've crossed my legs. while your eyes were closed, I crossed my legs. So I want you now to take, again, another picture of me, of everything you see, and close your eyes. I'm going to change something else. Okay, I'm going to change one thing about myself. Okay, open your eyes.
Your collar is
Okay.
up.
Right, my collar is up. Okay, and I'm going to put my collar back down now. And I'm also going to, just for comfort, I'm going to uncross my legs, and I want you to take a picture of what you see now.
Okay.
Okay, and close your eyes. Okay, I'm going to change another thing about myself. Now notice, if you're a viewer, notice that I'm changing more subtle things now. I'm starting to move into changing more subtle things. Okay? Okay. So I'd like you now to open your eyes and tell me what's different about me.
Your sleeves, they were folded before.
Okay,
Now
very
they're
good.
done.
Very good. My sleeves were folded before and now they're unfolded. Very good. And so now I'm going to make the change even more subtle, really allowing Sarah to exercise her ability to take everything in, to form mental pictures, to really use your brain and your eyes together to make sure that that's sharp. Okay, so what I want you to do now is just take a visual picture of me.
Okay.
And close your eyes. I'm going to change something that's even more subtle. Okay. I want you to open your eyes and tell me what changed.
Is your jacket's closer?
Okay, very good.
You pulled the jacket in?
Very good. I pulled my jacket in. A very subtle change, and you picked up on it. Very good. You're outstanding at this. So that's 100%. So if you're working at home with a partner, I want you to give the partner feedback. Tell them how they're doing as you progress along. And realize not everyone's as good as Sarah. Sarah's just knocking this out of the park. So some people have a 0% first time around because they're just not paying attention, and then hopefully that will go up as they get more tuned in and really start paying attention. But most people are about 50%, maybe 75%. If you do 4, they'll get 2 to 3 out of the 4 correct. Usually not all 4, especially if you're getting very subtle like I was, and I don't even know if I would have noticed that, the very subtle change. So very good. Okay, so now you understand how to do a visual acuity exercise. I want to show you now an auditory acuity exercise, and this is going to help you tune into your auditory world. So Sarah, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and close your eyes. I want you to tune into any sounds that may be around you. Tune in to any sounds that you may hear. And I want you to imagine your hearing becoming sharper. You hear more things. That's right, just tuning into those things that you hear. And I want you to tell me now what you hear.
I hear rain outside.
Very good, rain outside.
And I can hear the camera making a really faint running noise.
Okay, very good. You can hear the mechanical portion of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And I can just hear you guys' little kind of shifting movements, like your clothing and stuff shifting.
Okay, myself and the cameraman.
And the
you
cameraman.
can hear both of our clothing shifting a little bit as we move around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good, very good. Now I want you to realize that the next time you use your hearing, which will be right now actually, you're going to hear more clearly. And from now on, you're going to hear more clearly. So your hearing is becoming even more clear now as I speak. And it's going to continue to become more and more clear. and you're going to be able to pick up on more and more subtleties in your environment. So let's do another visual acuity exercise. You ready, Sarah?
Sure.
Okay, what I'd like you to do is put your 2 index fingers up right in front of you, pointing right up to the sky. Very good. And with your eyes open, I'd like you to move them out to your sides now until they're just at the edge of your peripheral vision. Is that it? Are they just at the edge now?
Yeah.
Okay, or if you move them a little further, they would disappear from your sight?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Now I want you to go ahead and relax your hands and close your eyes. And I want you to tune in now to the power that you have, to the power of your visual sense. And I want you to imagine your vision becoming stronger. And I want you to imagine your vision becoming clearer. And I want you to imagine you having the ability to see a little more, to see a little further to the sides of yourself. Okay, open your eyes again. And I want you to put your fingers up in front of you just like you did before. And I want you to slowly move them out to the edge of your peripheral vision, to where if you move them any further, they would disappear. All right. Very good. Wow. Okay, so what I'm seeing now is that you've got them further out than you did before. Does that seem further?
Oh, yeah, actually,
to you?
I think it does.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, very good. Okay. So by just tuning in, you can relax your hands now. By just tuning in to your visual sense, you can actually improve it. So we have control over all of our senses. We have the ability to take control of and improve and tune into all of our senses.